smile to some of your faces, because that's what we do. We are working with children who are fighting for their lives. They are dealing with childhood cancer, and our only job is to bring smiles to their faces. In 2006, as we said, the Freeburg JC had an idea, which was to open the first full summer day camp in the world for children with cancer and their siblings, and to do it for free. That was 96 children in that first year. By the time we hit 2014, the program had become so immense that we actually had to separate it from the JCC and create a subsidiary board of directors and a subsidiary organization known as the Sunrise Day Camps Association. By the time we hit last season, which was 2018, from 96 children in the first year, we now have cared for 5,000 children in that year. We did it through 8 summer day camps, 3 of which are in Israel and 5 of which are here in the United States, and 38 in-hospital programs. This is Sunrise.
Sunrise is the best camp because you could do anything you would like to do. I forgot that I had to take medicine and I had to get needles, and they just made me feel like a regular kid again.
This is the only full summer day camp for children with cancer and their siblings in the world. And what it's done is change the conversation for them.
So, you get home, and instead of remembering having to get accessed or having to get chemo.
It wasn't about the hospital in the morning, it was about what'd you do at camp today.
Sunrise on Wheels is a year-round outreach program to those children in hospitals while they're undergoing chemotherapy and other treatments.
It's a gift. It truly is.
What you can't see in this video is the way in which Sunrise changes lives, not just of our children and our families, but of our young staff, so many of whom have changed their majors, have gone into social work and child life, and even pediatric oncology. Kids that line up at the end of the summer to give us back their paychecks because they want to make a donation to this camp and they want to be part of it. We believe that this embodies every Jewish value that we have ever taught in the JCC movement. It inspires our donors, it inspires our leadership, it creates powerful opportunities for engagement with Israel in our camps over there, where Arab staff and Jewish staff work side by side towards a common goal. It creates an entry point for Jewish donors who want to heal the entire world, but can now do it through a Jewish lens and through a Jewish agency. And even more so, it creates opportunities for JCCs who take this on to be able to make a positive impact on their bottom line through cost-sharing measures, while at the same time making a positive impact on the world. We've successfully set these camps up at 3 JCCs, 2 of which are in the room today, and it's my hope that being here today, you'll have the opportunity to do many more. Thank you.
The judges will now take a little bit of time to ask questions.
So it sounds like a great program. I've heard it a lot before. In order to expand into those other JCCs, what is it that you actually need in terms of new investment or change in how you do things, or what is it that you're looking for in this innovation institute?
So we don't charge any fees. And the reason we don't charge any fees is not just the financial impact, which is huge on families with cancer, no matter what economic strata they're on, but it's also the emotional part of it, and to get them to start filling out forms with income and all that when their child has been recently diagnosed is almost impossible. So everything that we bring in through contributions, donations, etc. What we need in each community, and what we've been able to furnish in just 2 of them so far, is startup funds. What we try to do is we take 12 to 18 months, we put staff on the ground at the JCC so that they can develop the infrastructure that they need to make sure that these camps will be sustainable. That includes development, it includes finding the right campgrounds, it includes bridging relationships with the hospitals, and putting together a leadership board that will take responsibility to making sure that these camps go on in their community for a long time. So what we're really looking for is for startup money, that will allow us to move this piece by piece into different communities.
Very impressive presentation. So 2 questions. First of all, how much startup funding do you need for each new site? And second of all, ideally, if you're talking about scale, it doesn't always happen. The cost per person goes down as the numbers of participants increase. Are you seeing any kind of reduction in cost per person as you roll out the model more broadly?
So we take responsibility as an organization for funding our infrastructure so that burden doesn't fall on the camps. So basically what we're dealing with is a set cost. And what we found in community after community is basically it runs us just about $600,000 to $700,000 a year to operate a full year of camp, plus the Sunrise on Wheels programs in the hospitals that you saw in the video. The startup costs us about $300,000 to $350,000 because it's 12 to 18 months and we're not operating camp at that point. So the largest cost, which is the camp itself, isn't in play in that particular year. That may be money that we're looking for from this Incubator project. It could be matching funds. We have many corporations and foundations that are willing to work with us if we can match certain funds. So, there are a number of opportunities here. But in terms of economy of scale, we've really knocked that out as much as we can, right off the bat. The community is not responsible for funding the association. The association, though, takes responsibility for helping to fund the community.
Have you developed a prototype of the kind of community you're looking for? Are there specific things that need to be in place before you go into the community? How does all of it work?
So anytime that you're running a day camp for children with specific needs, you're going to have them scattered. And that's the prime reason why there never were any before we came in. We were able to set it up in the New York area because there were 13 hospitals within driving distance to our campgrounds that had pediatric oncology units. What we look for are major cities with major teaching institutions because that tends to be where the families move towards. We're basically looking for areas where there's a high preponderance of children with cancer. And when we can identify those areas, and there are many throughout the United States, we can set up a camp in that area.
What percentage of your clients and what percentage of your staff are Jewish? And does that affect the way you think about potential philanthropic partners?
It's a great question. So the percentage of children that are Jewish tend to be reflective of the percentage of children that have cancer in that particular community. In New York, needless to say, it's the highest. We probably run close to 20% at that point. And when we're dealing in other communities, like Baltimore or Atlanta, it's going to be lower. Needless to say, when we're dealing in Israel, that's going to be our highest percentage that it is. But even in Israel, for instance, our program down in Beersheba is 50% Arab and 50% Jewish. The real engagement piece is with the staff. Most of our staff are Jewish. And
1%, 70%?
Again, it depends on which particular area it is. In New York, it's probably 65 to 70%. In Baltimore and Atlanta, it's lower, but we're probably still dealing with about 40 to 50% Jewish staff in those areas as well. And if we're aligned with the JCC like we are in Staten Island, you're going to see a much higher percentage of Jewish staff. And this is really where we see the Jewish impact, because they are learning what it is to live the Jewish values that we've taught them. And this is where they really come through and they shine.
I just want to mention we have one more minute question.
So in the 2 communities or 3 communities where that managed to expand in those JCCs, how has the fundraising gone? Has it been a struggle? You get the 150 or 300,000 startup funds, and now you're in the middle of 600,000, 700,000 a year. How is the ability to keep those programs running year after year on so far?
The one thing that we found, and I know that everybody in this room is going to understand this, is that when you're dealing with a subject like childhood cancer, the fundraising is so much easier to get into, unfortunately, than it is if you're trying to sell a JCC program. Every community is stable. Every one of them has been running the program for multiple years, and every one of them continues to raise the funds that they need for it. Some of our communities are actually even a year ahead in terms of fundraising.
Arnie, you've got 30 seconds for your final wrap-up.
Okay, so what I would tell you is that this is not just an innovative program. This project has received worldwide coverage in newspapers, periodicals, television. It's been replicated 8 times. It has a powerful infrastructure behind it. And it's also basically a turnkey operation in that we know exactly how to run this. It also benefits the JCCs in myriad ways. The last thing I can tell you is that Sunrise, over the last 13 years, has reached more than 15,000 children. We've held countless hands, we've dried countless tears, and we have given countless smiles to so many children. There are children out there right now who don't even know that they have cancer or that they're going to have cancer, and they're looking for heroes. And my hope is that you will join us in being heroes.
Thank you for giving me the support that I needed when I was younger. So when I was at the hospital and came back, I didn't have to feel like I was always there and always down. But when I was here, you guys made me feel happy. I truly am thankful for that.
That's what they're learning. Rolling, rolling, rolling with the J on wheels. Rolling, I said rolling, rolling with the J on wheels. Fellow Sharks and fellow Zets, we are rolling with J on wheels from Dallas. Get on board outreach. Other outreach models have been tried. This is the solution to your challenge of reaching your furthest communities. Here's the why, what, where, who, and how. 3 pillars: educational, social, and cultural, all with a Jewish twist. Outreach is essential. This is a new, meaningful, personal method to build community. What? An amazing mobile, multi-purpose space. Perfect for all sorts of programming, plus J on Wheels is a mobile marketing vehicle spotted by all as it travels through town. Activities for all ages, mommy and me, teen entrepreneurs, mitzvah projects, holiday, tech study on the move, Shabbat at camp bus stops. Where? Just drive in, park, open the doors, neighborhoods, grocery stores, parks, senior centers, Starbucks, schools, synagogues. Everywhere our community plays, learns, and shops, the J on Wheels will be there. Who? The best J on Wheels coordinator is well connected to the community, knowing the people and the places to be. The magic is in the small groups that transform the space with their energy and excitement. How much, you ask? You have it all in your toolboxes and your owner's manual. Every detail of the process is there to guide you to start your own. This is a turnkey project, no pun intended. The ignition key is involvement with partner organizations in creating new and different opportunities. J on Wheels is more than a mobile outreach program. It is a part of the joyful Jewish journey. Now watch the J on Wheels as it rolls through Dallas, filled with community inspiration and innovation.
Our JCC has the best programming to offer newcomers to Dallas. And so to bring that programming outside of the walls of the JCC to where Jews are moving to beyond the traditional neighborhoods of the Jewish community of Dallas is so important because it's so innovative. It takes the quality, breadth, and depth of programming that our incredible JCC offers here in Dallas and takes it across the metro area.
It's a lot of fun to drive that vehicle.
So this is about scaled up big bowl and so on. What is it that you are actually trying to do here? What do you want to get out of this?
We are engaging in the Jewish community all over the Metroplex of Dallas. There's people that are living 30 and 40 miles away. They will not come to our organization, and we want to meet them where they're at. purpose of it is to really try to create a community with small groups. And we've really sold out our programs. Now, you can have 20 to 25 on the vehicle, but there's 3 different ways you can use the vehicle. One is an identifier. People see it, and they know that there's a program going on at the place that we're at. The other is to use it as a place to begin your program and to end your program, and another is to do it on your vehicle. So there's just opportunities galore to use this vehicle for that.
So, I mean, do you want more vehicles or?
I want more vehicles all over the place. I want everybody to have a day on wheels. You know, so I think it's a really wonderful approach.
I love this. I think this is a brilliant idea. A couple of questions for you. Number one is, how busy is it on an average day and an average week? And what's the number of people you serve on an average week? And how does that break down by age?
Okay, so we've had 59 programs, we've served 7,000 people.
59 out of over how long?
Over a year's period of time. We do 3 to 5 a month at this point. It's been a little bit over a year we've done this. The programs do range from 18 to 20 people. We have actually stopped it at that point because it just gets too many people on the vehicle. And then we do another program based on the need, based on a waiting list. So there's infinite opportunities for us to use it. We also go to community-wide events, which really does expose the organization, and we learn about people that are in the outskirts of the community by going to those events. So we have a chili cook-off in town, Kosher Chili Cook-Off, and there's about 700 people that come there to eat some really bad chili. Because Jewish people really don't have that chili. And so, you know, I think it should be sponsored by Pepsi. But anyway, the deal is that we meet a lot of people from other places that we don't know, and we then start to work with them to cultivate opportunities out of those areas.
So for those of you who know me know that I'm like jumping over the table, but I'm restraining myself here a little bit. But I do have some real questions.
Sure.
Maybe done some of this before. I want to know about what it takes as far as staffing goes. I want to know what the cost of the vehicle is, and I want to know what the infrastructure cost is. How do you ensure I mean, this is liability on wheels, so.
You can do the program for, actually the costs are about $70,000 to $75,000 a year. However, it's a one-time startup cost of $35,000. You've got your trailer and you've got your wrap, and then what you have for your operating costs, because you have another $35,000 that you would have in the cost of your truck. We lease the truck, so it only costs us $5,000 a year to do that. So we lease the vehicle because there's no way you're going to be spending, you can lease it for 10,000 miles a year. You're not going to be doing 10,000 miles unless you drive it every day. And we do, but we don't drive it all day long. So there's the opportunity to be able to save costs on that. And of course you have insurance and you have your marketing and all the things. So ultimately you're looking at about $75,000 from the program.
But I want to go back to staffing, because that person who's driving the vehicle is as important as the people who are doing the program. So tell me what kind of staff you recruit and how much you need and how much you train, all of it.
Well, right now we have a young lady who actually is, her father is a rabbi in one of the northern areas of the Metroplex. She knows everything. She's probably 25 years old, and to see this young lady drive that truck is pretty amazing. So she really is the program, and what she does is she works with all of the staff members of the JCC to take the programs that they do and go out with them. So we take all of our staff from cultural arts, for Melton programming, from the hunger and security program where we take meals to seniors that are in outlying areas, and we have all of our staff involved. I think that's a challenge, by the way. If I were to say something honestly, the challenge is getting your team to understand we want them all to be involved, and we want them to be really true to the brand of social, educational, and cultural. They want to take it out and do birthday parties. That is not what this vehicle is. This vehicle has nothing to do with this. This is an experiential vehicle.
So I hate to interrupt, but I will. Artie, you got about a minute to wrap up.
Yeah, this program is about telling, not selling. We tell the people that we want to help them get engaged. We tell them that we're here for them. We tell them that we care about them. We tell them that we want to help build community in any way that they want the community built for them. And we are not not interested in bringing them to the JCC. We just want to engage them and get them to be a part of our vision, which is to engage the entire Jewish community. That's our goal.
Wait, so Mark, one quick additional question. So the idea here is scaling. So I assume scaling doesn't just mean more Dallas trucks. You want 20 different trucks. So what are you going to provide to your colleagues to help them start this in their community?
This manual has everything in it, but I'm here and available to talk to anyone. I'll come into the community, I'll speak to the boards, I'll speak to anybody.
So you don't need money, you need them to get money.
Well, actually, it'd be nicer for them to have dollars available. Many of these people, I would imagine, this room don't have dollars. That's
very altruistic.
Thank you.
Like so many of their contemporaries, young Jewish families are moving into up-and-coming Brooklyn neighborhoods. Well beyond the borders of established Jewish communities, the Kings Bay Y led the way in identifying this new frontier of Jewish engagement in Brownstone and North Brooklyn. Of the approximately 40,000 Jews living in these areas of Brooklyn today, less than 5,000 belong to synagogues and other Jewish institutions. That means an enormous untapped opportunity exists to serve tens of thousands of people open to engaging in Jewish life. Opening storefront community spaces in Windsor Terrace and in North Williamsburg. We met these communities' needs for early childhood, after school, and holiday programming. In 2017, a third storefront followed in Clinton Hill. These programs, now under the JCC Brooklyn umbrella, are filled to capacity. JCC Brooklyn is a new kind of Jewish community center. Instead of one big building, we inhabit multiple locations, neighborhood-based storefronts, creating flexible, accessible, modern, and hyper-local opportunities to engage. We've heard that young people want meaningful Jewish engagement in their lives. Parents of babies and toddlers are looking to connect with other families and to share Jewish values and traditions. Teens are looking for Jewish leadership opportunities. Baby boomers who have chosen to retire to Brooklyn are determined to stay active in their community. JCC Brooklyn's vision for the future of Jewish Brooklyn recognizes the vitality found in smaller, more intimate settings where relationships can be built, friendships are made, and individuals and families together can root their lives in the questions and responses of a rich and meaningful Jewish civilization. Our vision is costly to fulfill. It requires multiple funding sources, supporting the acquisition of new spaces and the creation of new programs. Downtown Brooklyn is our next frontier, where thousands of new apartments are rising in the rapidly changing Brooklyn real estate landscape. With your support, JCC Brooklyn can be the platform for transforming Jewish life.
As young families and often their jobs have migrated to this new urban terrain, the model of large suburban buildings does not work in this urban terrain. And it's often devoid of any previous Jewish infrastructure. Rented storefront GCCs address their need for a walkable, hyper-local experience, so we can focus on their human needs, as opposed to our facility plumbing and sewage needs. This new behavioral pattern presents the Jewish world with a unique second chance to re-engage these secular, just Jewish, often interfaith families. They might come to us for quality childcare, but hopefully they will stay for their own community.
So when you're choosing storefront locations, how long are you signing leases for?
Well, since we're speaking about Brooklyn real estate, which is, we all know, that's it. We are lucky to get 10-year leases with an option to extend that lease.
I have to tell you that I think I saw my grandson. the real estate and the infrastructure is extraordinarily important. I'm aware of that, and I'm going to let these gentlemen probe that more deeply. But again, I go back to staffing. If you're decentralized, how are you recruiting? I'm sorry. Okay, better. How are you recruiting and staffing these places? Because it's got to triple or quadruple your staff.
Absolutely. So the beauty of having that one building in South Brooklyn, that the functions of accounting and bookkeeping and all other fun functions are there. So they don't need to be replicated for those GCCs. So essentially it's a mix of a centralized and decentralized model. So what's required, since every neighborhood is radically different from one another, what's required is the right person, the right human resource on the ground who can actually engage with that particular population in Clinton, Hill, and Fort Greene, and downtown Brooklyn, and so on and on.
So a lot of what we're trying to do is get somebody who's involved in one program to get involved in other programs of the JCC or whatever the agency is. How are these people who are coming in for early childhood daycare or whatever, how are you getting involved in film festival or other Jewish programs that are going on?
So the answer to that is I do not have a crystal ball. I do not know if a lot of them, some of them will not stay in those urban settings. Some of them will migrate back to suburbia. Some of them will move around. What's really critical is to capture them at this point in their lives when they've got young children. That's our opportunity as a community. That's when they come in, and that's when they actually are ready to part with their resources. They're ready to open their minds. From that point on, each neighborhood is different. In one of our locations, it took about 2 years for the community to really start inviting each other to their homes, to start creating Shabbat dinners, and to bring in, to pay for additional resources, to bring charismatic rabbi who could actually engage them because they were not engaged with, there was no any other Jewish infrastructure, there were no synagogues. So in a sense, it became a quasi-Jewish synagogue, a quasi-space for all other things that can be done with them.
I just want to just about 1 more minute to ask questions.
Have you looked at other kind of real estate models? For instance, this is an expensive model, and it's not instead of your building, it's over and above your building. You could reimagine this as kind of a pop-up where you're working with a broker and buying bankrupt end-of leases and using this as a driver to normative programs in the building. You would lose something because you'd be moving around more, but the cost per person might plummet. So have you looked at other kind of ways of doing it rather than just being in the commercial real estate business?
So, since we're talking about New York, it has gentrified and has changed. It is absolutely impossible. It was probably the case about 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago. Unfortunately, these days, the real estate is the driver. And even though we managed to speak to some brokers and to some real estate developers, the landlord is God in New York, and that's unfortunately the model in New York is relying upon the broker and that model very deep. Right.
Go to second one.
Okay, so you've got 30 seconds to wrap up.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here, and also most importantly because it's really freezing out there, so I don't know how you guys can sit here. Thank you for the opportunity to address you. Thank you.
Parshat Yitro tells us that it is not good for man to be alone, that we are meant to be for community. The third principle of JCCA emphasizes how important it is for diversity among our Jewish people, that it is well-being of our people. And at the JCC Inclusion Think Tank, we learned that inclusion makes people feel welcome, heard, and valued. Keep these things in mind, please, as you watch a short video about All-Star Abilities.
All-Star Abilities is a peer-to-peer fitness literacy training program for teens with special needs in concert with typically developing teens. They come and they work out together, they have fun together, and they socialize.
All-Star Abilities was kind of a dream child. I woke up one day and said, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to make happen. And and it was amazing to be able to talk to the people in the JCC and to really have them foster my idea, my passion.
There is an incredible dearth of programs like this. And if you were to talk to any parent like me, we're hungry for programs like this. We're hungry for opportunities where our children can be accepted for who they are, loved for who they are, and work with neurotypical peers in a community that embraces differences. You know, from an affective kind of point, and it's hard for me to even talk about this without getting emotional, is the acceptance that he's part of a community, because many parents who have children with special needs have been on a journey, and it's a painful one, a lot of rejection, and the fact that he's not rejected is a beautiful thing.
So Avi's mom drops him off at the J every Sunday afternoon, and he meets his friend Sam in the lobby, and together they work out and they hang out and they join an afternoon of activity and friendship. And Sam helps Avi get ready for his All-in Swim Club program, and Avi's mom enjoys an afternoon of renewal for herself, and Sam talks about his friend Avi around the dinner table. And All Star Abilities was really created to help teens with special needs develop healthy habits and healthy hearts. The real impact has been full hearts for our participants and their peer buddies and their parents and their families, and certainly for our JCC communities. We all have the staff. We all have our facilities in which to make this program happen already. JCC Chicago is here to give you the curriculum and the collateral. This is an easy to implement, very low cost, high impact program, and we are here to be able to scale it across the movement with relative ease. All Star Abilities was created by a team who saw a need in our own community. It was funded by our Federation's Breakthrough Fund Grant program a few years ago. It is self-sustaining, and today we have the opportunity again to bring it to the movement, and I thank you for your appreciation of what's possible.
Right off the top, Abby, how is this different from Friendship Circle? And does it run, is there a tension between what you're doing and what Friendship Circle does?
So we did a lot of research when we put the program in place, and we found that families were not finding access to this type of program. The real difference here is we're trying to find the ability for teens with special needs to find independent access to their ability to find comfort within a fitness program. So we're not there to just be their buddy, we're there to help them be able to independently access a fitness center so that they can do that work on their own. Today we hear stories all the time of kids who they used to go to their YMCA even, or their JCC along with their parent, but they would hang out on a screen while their parent worked out, while they're doing that work together. Or the family would take a ski trip and leave this particular child at home alone, and now they're all skiing together because we've been able to teach those skills to this team.
Thank you. So 2 quick questions for you. Number one is you mentioned that there's a curriculum that you're going to make available. What are the foci of the curriculum? Is it just about dealing with special needs co-participants, or do you go into the Jewish values of what these kids are doing, program developments, etc.? And then the second question is, you said the program is self-sustaining. Are you charging the families a fee for participating? How is it self-sustaining?
Sure. So on the curricular side, the focus really of the curriculum is about training our staff on how to work with teens with special needs. So some people might be able to access your own communities, your own access or experts within that field. So in Chicago, we work with an organization called Keshet, and they provide some support and being able to train our staff. We might have those resources within your own community of field experts. So that's really the focus of that piece of the work, as well as, I mentioned on the slide, like 15 and 45, 15, how we set up the hour and 45 minutes of the program. In terms of, I'm sorry, what's the second part of your question? Self-sustaining. So in year one, when we had breakthrough grant funding, that seed funding, it was a free program entirely. For the volunteer participants, it is free. For the individuals with special needs, we do charge a small fee. So we run the program our hard costs now are our full-time staff, which are there anyway, so we don't really allocate that to the program. We do have received some small grants. We received one from JCCA to add some additional programs within our fitness center, where we had some cross-home fitness instructors that were already part of the program.
So when you look at scalability and so on, it sounds like a fairly small cohort. Obviously, you have to work every time. So what is the ability to actually scale into a larger group? Is it just more small groups, or is it bigger groups, or obviously different locations, or?
So we try to keep the cohort small because of the intimacy in that. We have kids who have been with us cohort after cohort. So really right now, in terms of scalability, we're thinking certainly, honestly, everybody can do it. You could do it tomorrow. There's a little bit of startup costs that we would like you all to be able to, share in so that you can have materials and training. Everybody gets a shirt, kind of a thing. And then we do think that there's some room here for what happens next. There's the problem with the bus stops coming, and we all know what that looks like, and especially in these communities. So what happens now when this population is beyond this peer-to-peer program, and we believe there's second stage here that we could be looking at.
Just a question on measuring success. I assume that you have really three audiences. You have the special needs kid, engagement and a good experience and success. You have the parents, but then you also have the peers who are working with the special needs kid. For those peers, how are you judging success? What transformation are you looking for? What results are you looking for?
So we do pre and post survey work with our peer volunteers to measure their understanding of disability and inclusion, their acceptance of disability and inclusion. We also measure their return to the program as volunteers. We see repeat participation on the buddy level over and over again. And I think those of us who are deeply engaged in inclusion really understand the value of a diverse community in this way and the impact that it has on the full population. And we see that in spades, particularly in this program, because the contact is so intimate.
And just a minute to wrap up your presentation.
Sure, so I'll get to the piece that we alluded to in the intro. So the founder of the program, Grace, that's my daughter, and this was her social impact project. She was a Diller Teen Fellow. And for those of you who are familiar with that program, the last 4 months are focused on creating something that is significant for your community. In Illinois, where I live, there is a lack of special education teachers. And she is a special ed major today, and looking around, she recognized that this is something significant and absent within her own Jewish community. So that's the family.
The Wall of Respect is a mural in Eddie's background, Chicago, that celebrated African American culture. In 2017, it was the 50-year anniversary of the Wall of Respect. When my staff learned about it, they wanted to replicate that in Kansas City, but not celebrate only African American history, but African American culture, Jewish culture, Native American, Asian American, and Latino cultures. So Kansas City is, I'm sure, like most of your cities, a very diverse city, but made up of very distinct neighborhoods that often are very homogeneous and don't talk to each other. And as a result, the fear of the other has caused divisiveness, conflicts, and a lack of understanding. So the operational theme of our program was to get people out of their neighborhood, literally, both physically and emotionally, by hosting events all around the city where they would come together and they would share stories of their cultural or ethnic backgrounds. And then those stories would be taken and put into an artistic rendering of the Wall of Respect. So the numbers on the right is the professional team that put this together, but the real story is the 150 participants that took part in creating our Wall of Respect. So this is our wall. You can see it's actually not a wall at all, but rather a yurt. This is actually shown at the Robert J. Dole Institute of Politics at the University of Kansas, because this is a traveling exhibit. This yurt is 12 feet in diameter and 12 feet tall, and it was a yurt because it shows the ongoing journey that people have with their cultural heritage. People are invited to participate in programming around this yurt. They are invited in to add to it, to read stories of other people's experiences, and then to leave things on their own inside of it. The yurt is meant to be taken down and transported. This has been at a dozen host sites, and we have a schedule of an entire year worth of sites that it's going to be traveling around the city. So it's taken down, put in a car, and travel around. The impact has been amazing. 100% of survey respondents said that they learned something new about somebody else's culture by participating in it, and 100% of participants said that it engendered greater pride in their own culture by participating in it. And I don't know when the last time you took a survey got 100% respondents saying anything, but that was a first for our JCC. One of the nice things about this program is the number of different organizations that brought together to put this on. Many of these organizations are affiliated with a particular minority group, but some are just community conveners themselves. An ancillary benefit to RJ was that it brought new funding sources to us. They were so happy with the project that they said not only would they fund that, but they would fund other project requests going forward because they had a great deal of confidence in our JCC. And then obviously, as the Jewish institution put this on, it gained a lot of reputational asset for the J. People gave a lot of credit to the Jewish Community Center for being the lead organization putting this together and convening conversations on this topic. So, and with that, I will take questions.
You started out by saying part of this was because everybody stays in their own neighborhood, it doesn't move around, and it doesn't see everybody else. Were you able to see some kind of change in that behavior? Or was it just you bring them to their neighborhood so they get excited about it and they bring it to the next neighborhood, but there's still no interaction between anybody?
No, that is absolutely the key in this being successful is you have to get people out of the neighborhoods. Because one of the things that we did was we did story circles where people shared their experiences, their understanding of their own cultural identity. Well, if everybody around that story circle is all the same ethnic, cultural background, it does no good. Because part of the experience is learning other people's cultures. So we had partner organizations that did a lot of marketing with us, and part of the key was getting people literally out of their neighborhoods to go to other neighborhoods. The story circles had that be representative of all the different ethnic backgrounds to be successful.
What did that become afterwards?
Yes, I mean, it has so far. I mean, this was a recent event, but yes, it has the ongoing dialogue and the partnership amongst these organizations that's continued to this day.
So you really, there's two sides to the story. One side is just the mechanism. You've got an interesting group of people together, you have talented artists, you use the yurt to display it, and then you put that kind of on the road. You chose a particular topic that you wanted to explore, but theoretically someone could take the same mechanism and explore varieties of Jewish stories. I understand that people came from different backgrounds here, but I think part of them would say that they don't have the same origin story as Ashkenazi Jews or Persian Jews or Syrian Jews or Russian Jews or the rest of it. So people could use the exact same mechanism that you're suggesting and say, hey, we want to do a different kind of story or content, and theoretically it should still work, right?
Absolutely. The yurt and the wall of respect was a means to an end. The end was sparking conversations, greater understanding of each other's cultures, having those conversations take place. The vehicle, the mechanism by how you get there, it can be adaptable.
So how much, what's the budget for this? And are you looking at new iterations? Because although you get one display, that's very nice, it could probably be done, like Mark said, in a variety of ways.
So our budget was $32,000. Much of that was a one-time cost, we think, which was consultants to figure out how this would work. How do you conduct story circles? How do you get this, put this together? Of that $32,000 cost, $9,000 was the consulting costs. And $4,000 was what I believe should be provided in kind by organizations, which is our Jewish educators' time, her own time. The rest is, so on a scalable side, you're talking about $18,000, $19,000, and some of which I think can be matched locally. But that is what it would take to replicate. As far as your second question, yes, we're kind of talking about that now. I will be honest, we don't have it solved. But it's like, okay, what do we do for wall of respect to 2.0? Is there something we can roll out the following year to follow up on our success?
Again, like our altruistic colleague from Dallas, are you looking for money to replicate this, or are you just suggesting to your peers, hey, this is a great model, we'll help you if you want to replicate it?
I think ideally, I think it's a good idea no matter what. We raised all the money in Kansas City to put this on, but ideally, if I had my way, there would be national funds provided to local communities, maybe as matching funds for local communities, match it with their own dollars to embark on this project.
You were the most extraordinarily altruistic ever been pitched by.
You could wrap it up.
Sure. This idea was born out of, we say the JCC is a town hall a lot, but this idea was born out of the idea of the JCC as a town hall, the realization that oftentimes we don't take advantage of that platform to convene conversations and do greater good in the community. So often we're focused on our core lines of business, that the mission aspect sometimes I think we could concentrate a little bit more. So with that, I'm done.
All right, show of hands. Raise your hand if it's easy to do Israel program in your community. No controversy, no divisions, no fissures. There's your test market. Jordan, I knew you would raise your hand. Not here. We agree. Not so easy, but I think we might have a solution for this. The division is real. Right? The folks in our community these days, right, you've seen this, the J Street, the APAC, the New Israel Fund. I think it's not creating a new paradigm in the relationship. A new paradigm in Israel-world Jewry relationship. That's what we need at this moment in time. We've been doing this for the last 4 years. We're calling it Zionism 3.0, Z3. Why Z3? Because 1.0 was the pre-1948 Zionism of Theodor Herzl. 2.0 was the Zionism of David Ben-Gurion, the builders. It was the Zionism of diaspora negation, of this idea that those of us in the diaspora, we get to have a stake in Israel, but we don't get to have a say. But we're now in a new era. In the 21st century, this is the first time ever in Jewish history where there's both a strong Jewish homeland and a strong Jewish diaspora. And both of these centers are making invaluable contributions to the future of Jewish life. But we need to bring these two centers together. We need to figure out a way where we can both have a stake and a say in what happens in each of these homelands. We've been doing this for the last 4 years. We've been having a conversation. We've been listening to each other. Why is this unique? One, because we're bringing together the left and the right. We're bringing together the Orthodox and the secular. We're having a conversation across party lines in a way that others are not doing. Number two, we're not just talking about what divides us, but we're talking about what unites us. Our shared sense of peoplehood, our shared sense of destiny and legacy. And number three, we're bringing together Israelis and world Jewry to have this conversation. We're not just talking to ourselves. And folks, it's working. This last year alone, we had 1,100 people at our conference. We had it live streaming around the world. We got international press coverage. We raised over $500,000. I'll tell you one quick story. There's a woman who's been coming for 20 plus years to our JCC. She has been a member of our community. She's coming to Z3. She had her first experience when she said, I'm going to Israel. Last month, she took her very first trip to Israel. She called her husband. She said, I'm not leaving. He said, I don't understand. We're getting a divorce? She said, no, you can come visit me. She did ultimately come home. This woman who was not Jewish is now going through conversion. She wants to become Jewish. Now, admittedly, that's not going to happen to every single person who has this experience. Good, but you never know. But people have recognized that we've cracked the nut on this. JCCs in this room, JCCs around the country, synagogues, federations, JCRCs, they're asking us to help them because Israel is a toxic issue in their community. You saw the lack of people raising their hands. People are scared to touch the topic, and they asked us to help them. We think the JCCA is the right platform. As we hear from Daron, 1.5 million visitors every week, nearly 200 JCCs in the continent. We think we have a model that can look like the JCC Maccabi Games model. Right? We're a combination of resources from JCCA. Mark, I'm not as altruistic as my colleagues. I am asking for money. The reality is $1 million investment over 4 years will help the JCC of Palo Alto and help these local host communities put on these Z3 conferences. I'll just end with the following. We hosted our last Z3 conference this past year during Hanukkah. And I think everybody must know that the diaspora dreidel and the Israeli dreidel are different. I mean, if that doesn't embody our differences, what does? Their Po is our Sham. So we created a new dreidel this year, which has become the symbol of the movement. It's a 5-sided dreidel with all 5 letters. I got ones for each of you. And I have more for people in the audience as well. But we need your help because great miracles are indeed happening here and there. Thank you. Thanks very much.
So I've heard of this. I've heard great things about it. I want to understand the model a little bit. Is this basically like a Limud, but only focused on Israel-diaspora relations?
It can be like a Limud. I think a Limud is a little bit more grassrootsy. But what we found is that the Z3 conference is just one of the experiences. The conference might not be the place where everyone comes. So it's a tool, right? Maybe in some communities it does need to be more grassrootsy, but we program this from the top in a way that's very curated. And we do it with Israelis on the ground. The key is having partners on the ground. Reut, the Shalom Hartman Institute, Shalom College, Binah. So it's not the Limud style where we're just gathering the folks in the local community. It's very thoughtful and planful in how we put it together.
You say Israelis on the ground, meaning you're working with Israeli institutions to provide speakers for you in Palo Alto.
Correct. Correct. The mic is on, so I'm not sure why you're not hearing me. It's on. I'll continue to talk loud. Yes.
I forgot the question, but it'll come back. Second day delivery.
So how do you measure the results, and then how do you make this again? So I come to a conference, I had a great time, I got some information, then what?
Right. We're trying to make this Velcro, not Teflon. There we go. We're trying to make it sticky. So to your point, Gary, it's not just a one-day conference. The idea is to get people engaged. You got to start with them being willing to sit down and listen to the other. You have to listen, right? We're not going to overcome our differences. There have been differences since, Joseph and his brothers, Hillel and Shammai, the Sadducees and the Pharisees, even the founding of the state of Israel, the Haganah, the Yergun. We're not going to overcome our differences, but we have to find a way to sit down and talk and listen. And then throughout the course of the year at the JCCs or synagogues, we're going to do regular programming to continue to bring these folks together. Meanwhile, on the ground in Israel, they're also doing things to change the way that Israelis are seeing American Jewry. Right? Because right now they're looking down our nose and saying, you're not going to be here in a few generations because of anti-Semitism, assimilation. Come to Israel where real Judaism is flourishing. We're saying, no, we have something to offer. Let's find a way to look at each other with more respect.
Zach, how does this interface with Federation? Because it smacks of the role that Federation at one point played.
So in some communities, Federation is taking the lead. In other communities, it's the JCRC or it's the JCC. We have partnered with our Federation. They were donors, the Correct Foundation, Honey Foundation, right? So in every community, it's going to look different. That's the beauty of this. It doesn't have to be a massive one-day conference that costs $500,000. In a small JCC, it could be one keynote speaker and one breakout panel. In another JCC, it can be a partnership with Moshe House or Hillel or Birthright because the young folks are not coming to the J, so we need to bring them out to Muhammad in that case.
Two questions regarding scale. Number one is, what can you provide to your colleagues that want to do this, which would help lower their cost based on your experience? Number two is, back to Gary's question about just a one-time, one and done. If this did go to scale, nothing would be cheaper than an online experience if you could do it right.
Right.
Have you thought about an online experience that could also engage Israelis in the discussion?
Yes. So we are doing that. To answer your second question first, we have an online portal. We're collecting videos. We're hopefully collecting articles and going to create a social media component as well, so it's not just a one-way conversation, but a two-way conversation. Our partner, Reut in Israel, is also doing the same thing. But the recognition that not everyone can be there is what led us to live stream it. We had people from the Ukraine, from Ramallah, from the Czech Republic being a part of this. Now, what can we offer to our colleagues to make it easy and cheaper for them? Is we can offer the branding, we can offer the internet availability, we can offer the social media, we can offer the program. I'm looking to create a model that's basically a Z3 in a box, where we can say, here, choose from these 4 keynote speakers, choose from these 12 different types of panelists, and really help curate the experience for those who need a little bit more handholding. We have built a toolkit. I have copies of the toolkit that I can leave with you. It's also going to have, and it's all free. We want to make this available to our colleagues, working with St. Louis and the Greater Washington JCCs right now, so it can be as easy for them as possible to do this, with raising a few shekels from the local community and some national.
How much would it cost to create Z3 in a box?
It would probably cost to do one-time model to build this.
be 3 in a box so that she can do kind of.
Right, I think for each one of these, it will probably be $100 grand. Right, I think $100,000, because remember, we're talking about a major keynote speaker, who sometimes charge between 25 and 50 grand. Speakers from Israel, their travel costs, right, that's the bulk of the cost. I would say at least 50 grand of it is to get top-notch speakers. And then you want to cull the talent from the local community. And then there's some costs associated with signage and with printing and with marketing. But the big chunk of the cost is speakers. So by the way, what we did this past year, partnering with a lot of these institutions, the New Israel Fund and Shalom Partner, they ended up sending lots of their speakers, and that covered the cost for us. We didn't have to pay out dollars for them, and that in exchange we put their name on the lights, right? So that would cover a lot of the $100K. But without it, I think that's what we're going to cost.
Zach, it's time to wrap up.
All right, I'll just say, look, I think this could be one of the most important causes of this generation, right? Recognizing that the young people are walking away from Israel, that communities around the country, as you just saw, are challenged with doing Israel programming because it's a tough issue, it's a toxic issue. We have to address this. Otherwise, there will be a divorce, as Jonathan Weissman wrote so uneloquently in his New York Times piece. But we have the ability to stop us from going in this direction if we take this seriously.
I'm going to take a private here. I just want to know, you're talking about the fact that this is going to address young people. What is the population that comes to the JCC? Do you see those young people coming to this?
Unfortunately, we have not cracked it out of the young people just yet. We had about 8% of our attendees this last time that were young people. However, and we're reaching out to the local Hillels, Berkeley and Stanford, they've reached out to us and said they want to do this. We're working with the local Moishe House, some of the birthright folks, because we recognize, again, they're not coming to us, so we have to bring it to them. One table and a tea tonight, and they want to do this with us as well. So there's other tools in the toolbox. All right.